Okay, my friends online, can we hear? Great. Evan, you're always good about getting back to me. I appreciate that. Oh, Allison, smile. Very nice. Ashley, full name. Okay. So we're going to continue talking about pricing and get into some little complicated stuff later today. If I get to it, I'll always be next class. But what about any questions from last class at all? Any got any questions? So we talked earlier, obviously, in the semester about introducing products, and really there's two basic. This is for when you're introducing a new product. There's two basic strategies. One is penetration. One is skimming. Have you ever heard of that? What do you think? What do you think? What would that be, Mark? So you're introducing a new product, and you want to price it. You penetrate the market. What does that mean? What do you think?
Maybe aggressively pricing your product, so it'll, like if your brand name doesn't have a reputation behind it, it will attract new customers.
Exactly right. That's exactly right. Not really guessing. That's exactly right. So when you introduce a product, you got two choices. One is you want to integrate it into the market and get people to use it, or which is then you lower the price, right? You're not making a ton of money. You're looking to sell a lot, have people use your product. That's called market penetration. So it kind of makes sense. The market penetration, you're trying to get in the market, obviously, right? So what do you think skimming is? Craig, what do you think? It's Craig, right?
Yeah.
What do you think skimming is? What's the opposite of that, buddy? What's the opposite of penetration, you think? Penetration, low price, trying to get a lot of people to use it. What do you think skimming is? Which means what happens to the price? Goes up, that's right. So these two are opposites, you guys. Market penetration is when you lower the price and try to get a lot of people to use it, a lot of people to see the product or whatever, sell a lot, whatever the case is. Market skimming is the opposite. Market skimming is when you introduce a product and you keep the price high, right? You keep the price high. So why would you do that? I mean, why would you introduce a product and keep the price high?
Because you have confidence.
That's good. What else? That's right. What else?
If there's nobody else, market.
Perfect, right? So I guess the conversation about last class about if the competition is there, you might as well. If it's not there, you might as well price it higher. What else?
Maybe just like it's low volume, so like Rolex selling less watches or more. I'm just guessing.
But that's right. That's right. That's good. So follow that. So say Rolex was introducing a watch, and their prices are always high. So say it's a high price. What does that mean? How much money are they making per watch, do you think? Let me put, which one of these are you making more money per unit? Skimming, right, you guys, right? So the price is higher, and you're going into the marketplace, and you're not really concerned that much about market share, or you're not concerned that much about, getting a lot of people to try it. You guys set some advantages. The other thing is the big advantage is you make more money. But here's the other advantage. If you come into a marketplace and you price your product too low, how easy is it to raise the price? Hard. If you come into a marketplace and you put your price high, you can always decrease it, right? So a lot of it depends on a million things. You guys got your answers are all correct. It depends, but one of the things about skimming is if you come in with a high, it's always easier to lower the price than raise it. So there's advantages to both. And again, as I said last week, all this marketing stuff we talked about up until last class doesn't mean anything if you can't make money. So picking one of those when you're introducing a new product is going to dictate as to how successful you are.
That's a question. What you said. So about you saying like a how hard it is to raise a price. Netflix, like for their streaming service, consistently every like 3 to 6 months raises it $1. Nobody seems to have like industry. Like I'm not ever hearing someone be like, "Oh, that extra dollar, like I'm switching to Hulu." Like,
Good question.
so why? It seems like it's almost our strategy to continually raise the price versus just hold. Why is that?
So these two concepts are for new product introduction. Okay, so if you're gonna bring in a product, you gotta think, I wanna price it high and make a lot of money and create a brand or whatever the case is, or I wanna price it low. So Netflix has been around a while. The last class we talked about, there was strategies about, remember the basis, you remember the basis, it was like the first slide of last class about how you base price on different things, remember? Remember what one was, what factor?
Or not going value.
Value, exactly right. So one was in the value you provide, that's right. You guys remember the other one? Cover two?
Cost base.
Cost base, and what was the third one? Competition. And what did Steve say? What was the Steve theory? Sell for as high as you can get it. That's your answer. So it's Netflix is going to keep pushing the envelope until I used the term last week. I want to make sure you guys understand, say stuff, terms, and it's like, or phrases people. So crying uncle is a phrase that says, okay, basically I give, right? So Netflix is going to keep jamming that price up until people stop using Netflix. So Netflix is a perfect example of they're employing the Steve strategy because as Netflix costs go up a ton, I'm assuming they're raising their price higher than what their costs are going up, and they're going to keep jamming that price up until somebody yells uncle. And that's why you get Apple Play and you get all these other streaming services that are coming out, really to compete against what people think there's a lot of margin in Netflix or an Amazon. So you're right, but that price skimming and this thing is those are two terms we got to do with introductory when you bring a new product out. Got that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So with Netflix, that's a perfect example. Is you jacking that price up until people say no. Yeah. And with more and more people getting off of cable, right? Like my son doesn't have cable. I don't know if you guys, a lot of people don't have cable anymore, right? So they know where those people are. People are leaving cable. They're still watching stuff and they're on the streaming services. So as long as people keep going to streaming services, as long as people are willing to pay for it, they're going to keep jacking up the price. And they're following the Steve model, not the other 3 points. Okay, so these are things that marketers do to influence pricing, and this is to consumers. The next page is going to be customers, but this is to consumers, right? So these are some things you may have heard of, and some of these you probably don't know what they are, but they're things that manufacturers do in order to get consumers to buy their products and how they influence pricing. All right? I'll put this up here so. Okay, so what is a markdown? What did we talk about, you guys, at Walmart? Remember we talked about last class? What's that called? Rollbacks, right? So that's a perfect example of a markdown. So you go into a store, whether it's a Walmart or something else, and they lower the price in store. It's called a markdown. Quantity discount's pretty easy. You know, if I go someplace and I'm buying 6 tomatoes, I get 10% off. Or liquors like that, right? If you go to liquor stores and you buy a full case, if you go to liquor stores, you got to go full case, they always give you 10% off. Okay, so that's a quantity discount. That's pretty easy. What's a seasonal discount? That's one, right? So after Christmas, after Easter, my wife came home with like all this candy, and because I'm a candy, unfortunately, freak, and she came up and it was all Easter candy. And I started to yell at her. She goes, "Steve, it was 75% off." I said, "You know, Easter quantity. I'm eating Easter like those eggs. Yeah, I love that stuff." So yeah, that's seasonal discount. What other seasonal discount you think there is? What's that?
Like, all usually the shorts and short shirts are going on discount as they bring in the new.
That's exactly right. And clothing is a great example, right? So best time to buy summer clothes, if you only care about price, is when? Yeah, like the end of summer or fall. Yeah, so that'd be a seasonal discount. And again, this is to consumers, because that seasonal discount, when we talk about how manufacturers sell to business entities, is totally different. You guys know what a coupon is, right? Like on the internet or online, you get a coupon, or you get a coupon flyer or whatever. You guys know what coupons are, right? Okay. What are rebates? Great. It's funny because most of the time people know what that is. So what do you mean you get money back?
Talked about it earlier in the semester about there's some alcohol that like gives you a $30 rebate, then most you have to like fill it out and send it in. But anyways, you pay for something, and then they promise you like you'll get money.
Okay. And do you guys remember Mr. Publix? We're here for the discussion. Do you remember we were talking about rebates in why? So if a bottle of Jack Daniels is $30, $40, and they give you a $10 rebate, and you got to mail it, why don't they just sell it for $30? What's the advantage to Jack Daniels doing a rebate instead of just going to $30?
Part of it, not everyone's gonna do the rebate.
That's exactly right.
Yeah,
That's exactly right. So what happens is so Jack Daniels, in the consumer's mind, they're trying to see the $30 price. But first of all, people don't fill out the paperwork. They lose it. And then a lot of times what happens is they get the $10 and they don't end up spending it. And I forgot, I used to know the numbers. I forgot what they are, but rebate, it's around 50% of rebates aren't ever used. Huh? Yeah, so if I'm a manufacturer, if I can get away with that, I'm going to do it. What's leasing? Anybody lease a car in here?
Isn't that like
Okay, we'll explain leasing. Anybody lease a car? Anybody's parents lease a car? You know how it works?
like you?
Okay, and then what happens?
You gotta give it back.
You gotta get it back, right? Yeah.
Like how we town, or is that just
Renting. Yeah, rent, that's rent. And so when you get pop-ups, any pop-ups, whether it's Halloween or any pop-ups, they're paying an exorbitant amount of rent and wait for like 2 months. So leasing, there's two things, you guys. There's leasing and there's leasing to own. So leasing is, in a car situation, what happens is people lease because they want a nicer car and they basically can't afford to buy it, right? So they pay this lease fee in order to drive a nice car, and then, like he said, most of the leases are either 3 or 5 years. After 3 or 5 years, you got to give the car back. So what happens to all that money you paid? Gone, right? There's a thing called leasing to buy. As a matter of fact, some real estate does this, and it's really rent. It's more you rent to buy, but it's called lease to buy. So say, I did this with a couple houses. You say, okay, somebody wants to buy the house, they can't afford it. I'll tell you what, you can lease it for $1,500 a month for 6 months, and I'll give you a $9,000 credit on buying the house. Okay. Then there's a program like our LED lights, which is really not the right name. We call it, but it's really not the right name. It's leasing to buy. So we put in the LED lights, and I'm going to show you a page in a minute about where you save money. There we call it lease to buy because the savings in the lights pay for the lights. So the savings in electricity pay for the lights for 3 years, and after 3 years, you still own the lights. That's different than a car. I mean, you're not giving back the lights, obviously, right? So there's different leasing programs, and somebody conservative like me would say, leasing good or bad? Why is that? Definitely bad. It's definitely bad for most people, you guys, because that money's down the tubes. it's no different than, and maybe I'm being too conservative, but once you get to a point where you've made enough money, maybe to buy a house or a condo or something, not everybody, most people are better off if they buy something rather than if they keep on throwing that money against rent. So it's no different than a car. You know, a car, a lot of people want to show off or they want to have a nice car, but they can't afford it and they lease. And, you know, there's other problems with leasing a car. When you lease a car, and you guys maybe aren't aware, it sounds like nobody's, have you talked to your parents about, like, there's a mileage restriction, right? So most of them are 10,000 miles. So if you're gonna, a year. So if you're gonna lease a car, you better not be driving much. If you go over 10,000 miles, what do you think the leasing company does? Charge the hell out of you. It's like expensive, it's like $1 a mile. So you gotta make sure that you're under, so there's issues with, now a lot of people do it, and a lot of people would say the opposite of what I would say. But,
Why would people? Like you said, there's a flip side of the coin. What situations would it be a good idea?
you want a car, and you can't afford it.
Well, good idea, like.
And one other thing is, although it's less now than it used to be, is you can write the lease payment off easier than you can. So if you're a business, you can write the lease payment better than a finance payment. It's easier to get through to the IRS, it's easier to communicate on text. So a lot of companies will lease cars. But even then, the companies leasing the car because they don't want to spend 50 grand on a car. They'd rather spend $800 on a lease month after month after month after month. So, I mean, there's advantages to leasing. I've never leased a car, and I don't believe in it, but that's me. Sure, your parents may have a different opinion. A lot of people have different. That's fine. But most of the time, it's to get a car, to be honest with you, that they really can't afford. It's to reach to, and there's nothing wrong with that. If as long maybe 3 years you're only going to be making more money, or you come into money or whatever, you can take that risk. So that might be a reason for leasing, but for the most part, my recommendation would be not to do it. What's price bundling? So again, we're talking to consumers like a retailer. So at Publix, what's a price bundle, you think? Can you think of an example of that?
That one actually, yeah, I can't actually. I
Okay.
don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
You can't think of one?
Um,
Okay, what, yes, ma'am.
Would it be like hot dogs? Yeah, having like a discount on one if you buy the other.
Yes, right? Or if you go to a Arby's, right? What does Arby's have? They call them bundles, don't they? I think they call them bundles. Like if you buy a double roast beef, it's $4. If you buy a soft drink, it's $2. If you buy fries, it's another $2. So instead of $8, if you buy the bundle, it's $7. The bundle is when you put a bunch of products together and the aggregate price is cheaper than the individual prices added up. Yes, sir.
But Publix, when you buy the chicken,
Yep.
one price, but when you add in 2 sides and the rolls, they discount.
That's a perfect example. Yeah, that's a perfect example. Yeah.
Old man example.
What's that, buddy?
Old man example, having to buy those family meals.
Well, they'll be there soon. Okay, then leader and loss leader is something. Does anybody know what that? Do you know what it is from Publix?
either pricing.
Yeah,
Um,
you heard that? I don't mean to pick on you, but this
yeah.
mostly got to do with retailers to consumers. Has anybody heard what leader pricing or loss leader pricing? You guys know what it is?
It like the product is like the leading selling detergent. You follow their price.
Great way to go. It's not. It's good thinking though. Okay, so remember this. Leader pricing is when you decrease your price in order to put something on sale. So most sales items are leader pricing. So if I'm buying Entenmann's is selling me a box of donuts, and the regular price, they sell it to me for $3 to Publix, and Publix sells it for $3.99, okay? So a box of donuts. Publix is buying from Entenmann's for $3, selling it for $3.99. If they sell it at $3.50, basically that's a sale, and that's leader pricing. What do you think loss leader pricing is? Exactly, that's right, exactly. So loss leader is when you lower price on something less than what you paid for it.
So,
Right. Yeah, that's an easy way to, that's a simple way of saying it.
okay.
Leader pricing is putting something on sale, but you're not losing money. Loss leaders, you put something on sale and you're losing money. That's a great question. Did the words right, you knew I was gonna ask that question. Thanks for setting me up. All right, so why would you do that? Why would you lose money? Okay, that goes back to like this lady here at QT, she said last week about, it's that whole thing about pricing. She said something about if a pricing is coming out of date, right, you may want to do that. Why else would you want to? It's all the stuff we talked about last class. What else? Remember we talked about last class? About cash generation. You may have to sell something cheap in order to generate a lot of cash. You may want to create an image with the consumer that holy shit, those donuts are $2.99. They're $2.99. They're nowhere near $2.99. So the consumer's mind, you're trying to create a low price image. So it's tough. You usually don't want to do it, but it happens all the time. Yeah, I know it's crazy. I know, especially think if you're a loss leader and you sell a lot. So the retailer, if they're doing a loss leader, do they want to sell a lot? No. What they want to do is they want to create an image in the customer's head, but hopefully they don't sell a lot unless they need the cash.
So it doesn't fall.
MSRP. You guys know what MSRP is? What is it, bud?
Like just.
Yeah, so what's MSRP stand for? You know? You heard of MSRP?
It's like something.
Awesome. You're missing one word.
Market.
Manufacturer.
Manufacturers, very good, buddy. So MSRP is manufacturer suggested retail price. So if they put it on sale, it's leader. And if they put it, like the donuts, it's a good example. If they go underneath the cost, then it's a loss leader. So those are ways, right, that customers, when they're trying to sell something to consumers, those are ways that they do get the price. I want to draw something because in business, this is, maybe let's go there. Let's go to the next one. Okay, so these are tactics from a manufacturer to a retailer, or a manufacturer to a wholesaler, or a wholesaler to a retailer. This is not about the consumer, it's about the customer, all right? So these are totally different terms. We got seasonal discount, again. So this could be tough. What do you guys think a seasonal discount is when we're talking about selling something to a customer and not a consumer? It could be that, or it could be the opposite, right? And so like, a seasonal discount on snow shovels, when do you think that happens? Jillian's point, it could be in October in order to get those stores to buy a bunch of stuff. Or it could be in February when everybody's already got their snow shovels and spring and summer's coming and their warehouse is loaded with snow shovels and they got to get those damn things out of there, right? So a seasonal discount is different in consumer versus the customer. Because that's customer. Cash discounts, what's a cash? That's easy. What does cash discount mean? If I'm selling something to cash discount, what does that mean? Exactly, right? And why do people want to pay cash? Why do businesses want to pay cash instead of credit cards? Did we talk about that here? The fee, right? Right? Did we talk about how much?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's right. So that's why you pay cash. Very good. So what about vendor allowance? We're going to talk about vendor allowance in a minute. Quantity discounts, what do you think that is? It's right. So the pallet thing, remember I talked about the pallet that I sold to the tent company for you guys who were here? So I only sell by a pallet because I want to make sure that they get that discount for a pallet. If they're going to buy less than a pallet, they're going to pay more. And then we talked a ton about shipping. This uniform delivery for some pricing is the same as shipping. So you don't have to go by this. I do want to go to DNA. There's something called discounts and allowances. And this, if it comes up on a test, to me, this is not pricing. discounts and allowances, oh, DNA. Discounts and allowances. DNA, so it depends, DNA, whatever. Different people get a different way. So, okay. So let me go back to my Coke days. I'm gonna use Coke as an example. So I had $60 million in DNA. What the hell does that mean? Okay, so if 12 packs, the regular price was, let's just say $6. So I'm selling to Kroger. So Coke to Kroger is $6, right? And I want to, I lower it because of, I'll tell you what, Kroger, if you buy 500,000 cases, I'll lower it to 550. That's not DNA, that's pricing. Okay, that's what's up on that sheet. DNA is totally different. My $60 million had to do with, it had to do with moving the business. It had nothing to do with price. For instance, let's go to Kroger, and I'll tell you, Kroger, for 4th of July, I'll pay you $500,000 to run the ad. So Coke would pay Kroger $500,000 to put Coke in the 4th of July ad. And I'll tell you what, I want to buy 4 feet of shelf space, and that's $1,500,000. And whatever it is. So these are activities to grow your business that's not directly attributed to price. Called discounts and allowances. You guys got that? So it's not, at least from my experience in this class, that's different than pricing. And it's a way to grow the business through price, but it's not tied into actual price. It's tied into activities. You guys got that? Yes.
So if you were to make, maybe not with Coca-Cola, just for instance, any product, you were just to kind of get it out there and get your name out there, if you were to sell to a wholesaler like Walmart and you're the manufacturer selling your product to them for like at cost or like more or like lower, you're losing money on the product. Could you use like that money to cover your loss so you can get
Who's losing the money? Pick a product.
Baseball bats?
Okay, so Walmart's buying baseball bats.
Yeah.
Okay, they're buying it from Louisville Slugger.
Sure.
What's your question?
So if you're Walmart and I'm Louisville Slugger, it costs me $5 to make a bat. If I sell it to you for $4 and I'm losing money, could I use that $60 million to cover the loss just to get the bats out?
What you might.
Okay.
I mean, you might. I mean, DNA. I mean, that really never happens.
Yeah.
I mean,
I guess
it happened. Well, I shouldn't say never. It's the only time you really. That's exaggeration. The vast majority of times you do loss leaders where you're selling something at loss is from a retailer to a consumer. A manufacturer selling stuff at a loss is really radical. I mean, they've got to be really in trouble. But that's more, again, that's pricing.
Okay.
If your Louisville Slugger thing, Louisville Slugger goes to Walmart, bats are $5. Okay, great. We want to run, we'll drop the price to $4 for the 4th of July and sell the bats for $2 cheap, whatever. That's all pricing. But if Louisville Slugger goes to Walmart and says, hey, I'll tell you what, we need a display up in front of the Walmart. We need a display in front of the store for the 4 weeks of July. And because of that, I'm going to give you $1 a bat. That's DNA. Okay, so in this class, you guys, don't get you. DNA is for stuff to grow the business. It has nothing to do with price. You guys all cool? My man in the middle, you cool? You follow this stuff, right, for the most part?
Yeah.
Okay, you guys got this? Okay. So that's DNA. Yeah.
So I know one thing that a lot of businesses pricing, like whole businesses, like pay it, and if you pay it, like the 210 and 30 thing we're talking about, if you pay it within a certain time frame, you get a certain discount. Where would that lie?
Okay. So what are those called? You remember what those things are
Like
called?
the 210 at 30.
Yeah, what is that called?
I don't remember.
You guys remember what that is? It's a weird name. I don't know where this name came from. But it's called terms. So you just brought up, let's go through this for a second. Let's go through it. So what did you just say? What's one term? Give me an example.
Like 210.
Okay, let's do, the easiest one's what? Net 30. So remember what that is?
Like you pay.
No, you need to pay within 30 days.
Yeah.
So like if they're buying, and this is all you guys, this is all business terms. It's not, this has nothing to do with consumers, right? So Louisville Slugger is selling bats to Dick's. If their terms are net 30, if they buy $500,000 worth of bats, Dick's doesn't pay when the stuff gets there. Dick's has to pay them 30 days after they sign the contract. That's how most business is. And I don't know why, but net 30 is pretty much the way it works with most products. Okay, what's the next one?
Then when you add that on top, 210, which is like, if you pay within those 10 days, you get
Right. So the other thing is 2% 10, not 30, means you still have to pay for in 30 days. But if you pay within 10 days, we'll give you a 2% discount. You guys got it? And then there's net 60 days. There's all kinds, there's no payment for 12 months. There's a lot of shit, right? Your question was, is that DNA or pricing?
like, where would it lie? 'Cause I just don't,
Let's start with this. You think it's pricing or DNA?
I don't think it's pricing because you're paying.
I'm gonna say it's pricing too. You guys got that? Comes up on a test? Okay, now your question is,
Like, where would it lie?
where do you think it lies?
Kind of a cash discount?
Go ahead. What's the one next to it? Vendor allowance. So that means, as a vendor, Louisville Slugger is giving allowances to Dick's if they, in this case, if they do this, right? That's an allowance. So to me, the terms would be an allowances. Okay, good question, though. Anything else you guys on this sheets? All right, trends influence price. When you have a lot of new products, obviously that influences the price up or down. Increased availability of bargain price, private and generic brands. Did we go through this when we talked about branding? Generic, private, did we talk about that? Did we talk about it? Yeah. What's a private label brand, you guys? What's the private label? That's right. What's the private label brand at Publix? What private label brand do you get? You have soda? You have Publix soda?
It just has a P on it.
Okay, great. You know what generic is?
Yeah, like cola,
Very good. You guys got that? And what's a national brand?
like Coke.
You got it. Okay, so that's increased availability of bargain price, private and generic brands are influencing the price. So think about it. So we talked about Kirkland. I remember we talked about Kirkland and how's the quality of Kirkland and Costco been over the last 10 years? Is it going up or down? Up, right? So let's talk about, say Costco used to sell Lands' End shirts. And everything, 10 years ago, whatever it was, 5 years ago, Costco sold Lands' End, Costco sold Lands' End, everything was great. Then all of a sudden, Costco starts introducing Kirkland shirts. And the Kirkland shirts, quality-wise, are as good as Lands' End. And it's 2/3 the price. What does Lands' End have to do? Cut their price, right? So when you've got bargain price or private label and generic brands, the quality gets better and better and better. It puts a lot of pressure on national brands to lower their price. Because there are reasons national brands are higher prices. Why is that? What have they created? Brand. That's what it is. It's a brand. Okay? So Coke is nothing better than Coca-Cola. But they've got a brand, Pepsi, whatever, it doesn't make a difference, but they've built a brand. So when those generics and market come out of private labels, they start making really good quality. Because for years, their quality sucked. So then it was different. Public Cola would suck and you couldn't even drink it. Okay, great. But as time goes on and they get better and better, Public Cola gets closer to Coke or Pepsi, more consumers go that way because it's so much cheaper. So this is tough. This is tough when these things get better, national brands suffer, right? So price cutting is a strategy to maintain, we're talking about market share, and we talked about this ad nauseam about how consumers are so much smarter now because of the internet than before. It's easy to use the internet for comparison shopping. But people are so much smarter than they used to be. Right?
Oh,
Oh, that's called upside down pricing. How is that? How did I do that? That's funny. Okay, that's upside down pricing. Shit, I don't even have a presentation. We'll go through it. Get the idea. I took slides out of this. We'll just go through it real quick because it's redundant. I think I talk about it later on. Oh. All right, hold on. There's one sheet I want you guys to see when we talk about break even later. You guys. Welcome back. I'm trying to find the actual right presentation here because there's one particular chart I want to talk about. I know that. You got me here. That's great. I appreciate your help. Okay, so let's do this because there's one shot I want to go. So if I go here, Jillian, how do I share the screen again?
So go back to the other tab.
Yep.
Yes. And then hit the arrow next to share files up there to go back. And then hit share application screen. And
Mm-hmm.
then just click on the screen
Mm-hmm.
and then just hit share.
Yeah, but I got to pull up another file.
They can see whatever you do now. Like you can go out of this now.
Okay, so how do I pull up my jump drive?
You can go to the files, pull it up, and they'll be able to see it. Like those files at the bottom.
Hang on. What's that?
I have no
You're
idea how
clicking
you
on
just did
the-
that.
Share, or so you gotta
That's a wild screen, man. Look at that. So what do you want me to do, Craig?
go on the very bottom.
Here?
Yeah.
Oh, I could do that. Oh, cool, man. Let me see if I got this right.
I think they're seeing the weird.
I don't know how to fix that. I don't know.
Only, what we got here, how many pages we got? Ah, this is it. Okay, so hopefully, oh no, maybe not. Can they hear me?
Go back, because I don't think they can see it well.
They can hear it and see it. Can I just go? Okay.
he didn't read it.
Are you guys criticizing me in back? Hey, Publix,
Whoa.
Publix.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
What are you jamming me about? What did I not explain well?
Oh, well, about the vendor allowance.
Okay.
I was,
About the terms? Ma'am, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, the vendor loan.
Okay. Do you understand net 30?
Yeah.
Okay. So the only terms I put up there were net 30 and 2% 10 net 30. So that's the one you don't understand?
So that net 30 is basically.
Net 30 means let's just use a retail. If a retailer buys Louisville bats, so Louisville sells to Dick's 500,000 bats. They ship them to the stores. Well, Dick's doesn't pay when the products get to the store if they got net 30. Dick pays 30 days after they sign the contract. Okay, big difference, because they can sell the bats and generate the money to pay the bill. Got that? And that's how most businesses are. 2% net 30, 2% 10 net 30 means that if Dick's were to pay for those bats within 10 days of the contract, they get a 2% discount. They still got to pay the whole bill within 30 days. Does that help? Okay, no problem. What's that?
Give that to.
Stop sharing?
The circle at the bottom with the red, green.
Yeah.
Get that?
Yeah, go.
Which screen?
No. Yeah, just.
No.
Now you can go
Now
back.
hit the PowerPoint.
You were zoomed in, so they can only see it.
Get this?
You can
No,
go back to the PowerPoint now.
This is great. How we doing? You remember when you came to this class, when you talked about that other class? You were laughing at that other professor. Do you remember what you were laughing at? You told me? Remember? You liked this class, but what were you laughing about in it? Yeah, you said you didn't know how to use D2L.
We didn't even try.
So listen, when I get out of here, I better not hear that shit about me. You know what I'm saying? I kind of understand. I mean, I get here.
You're better than he was.
Oh my God. All right. Okay, so let's go here. Let's return on investment. We talked a little bit about this, you guys. So this is everything, right? So return on investment for your finance guys is ROI is net profit after taxes divided by total assets. I'm going to give you a term here that probably nobody knows. Okay, first of all, my financial people, what's net profit again? My man with the gator. What's net profit? Do you know what that is?
It's the profit you made after. Or like
Ooh,
after
close.
all the stuff, the administrative.
Exactly, right? So if I buy a product, if I sell a product for $6 and the product costs me to make $4, gross profit's $2. But if I got G&A, to run the business over $1, then I'm only making $1. My net profit's $1. You guys got that? So we're talking about return on investment is net profit after taxes. You take taxes out over total assets. Now, this is something you can impress your friends with at the bar. There's something called economic value added. Economic value added. To me, this is interesting. And it's interesting because Coke came up with it. So it is, I don't know how many years ago, but Walmart and Kmart made the same amount of gross profit. I think it was, if I remember right, it was like $10 billion. I think it was something like that. But they both made the same amount of money. So who did it? So if you were to look at them, you would say that they were equally effective? Yeah.
I bet, I'm guessing Walmart has a lot more SG&A because one, they have a way huger building, more light bills, more expenses, and they probably have way more like actual buildings in general.
Back in the good old days, you're exactly right, except it's the opposite. If you got exactly the right thing, you run customer.
Okay.
So back in the day, when Kmart had zillions of stores, Walmart and Kmart made $10 billion, but I'm just making this up. Kmart might have had $100 billion worth of assets. Walmart had $50 billion worth of assets. So they both made the same amount of money, but who's doing a better job? Walmart's doing $10 billion on $50 billion worth of assets, where Kmart's doing $10 billion on $100 billion worth of assets. The problem was back then the stock market, before this EVA thing came up, and again, Coke came up with this. I'll tell you why in a minute. The stock market would have valued, believe it or not, these two companies pretty close. They wouldn't even look at this line. They wouldn't even look at that. They would just say just profit, right? And that's what, pretty much that's what dictated the stock. Well, Coke comes along and says, oh, let's say Coke is doing, let's just for the hell of it, let's say Coke is doing 10 billion on 1 billion worth of assets. Because Coke, what assets does a Coca-Cola, I think it's too deep here, but the Coca-Cola company, the next one Coca-Cola company, the distributors and stuff of Coke, beer companies are like this, soft drink companies are like this, there's a lot of companies like this, where the parent company doesn't really own many assets. So like in a beer company, for instance, you got a beer distributor, Cartersville, Georgia, up here. You guys seen that big, gigantic distribution center in Cartersville? That's not owned by Budweiser, it's actually owned by a franchisee. So what that franchisee does is he buys Budweiser beer from Budweiser and he distributes it. Same thing with Coke, same thing with Pepsi, same thing with, there's a lot of, believe it or not, a lot of industries like this. So who owns all the assets? Exactly. The trucks, the plant, all that shit, the employees, is the franchisee. In the meantime, the parent companies like Coca-Cola or Pepsi or Bud doesn't make a difference. They're selling them the product. In Coke's case, the way Coke is made, just FYI, soft drinks are made, is they actually sell something called concentrate. And it comes in little, I don't know, maybe 5-gallon containers. And then they dump that in to 500 gallons of water. And they add carbonation, and that makes Coke. So Coke's only cost is this little freaking thing, in a building downtown. So Coke say, well, wait a minute. If I'm making $10 billion, and it's no different than the Kmart Walmart thing, it's more exaggerated. These are pretty close in terms of relevancy. Wait a minute, if I'm making $10 billion on $1 billion worth of assets, don't you think I'm like worth a ton more money? And our CEO, I was there when this happened, our CEO talked Wall Street into valuing companies where they did not have much assets as more valuable. And our stock went through the roof. Any companies that had that went through the roof. So the concept is called economic value added. That's what it's much more complicated. To tell you the truth, I don't understand the past that. I gotta be honest with you. I understand this. It's more complicated, but I don't understand it. It's like obviously you can talk about it. But I do know this is the major crux of the thing. So when we start talking about return on investment and we start talking about EVA, it's not enough just to talk about how much money a company makes. It's how much money does a company make based on what they've invested. You guys got that?
Just basically taking away the assets that you see considered. I guess I'm
Okay, great. Okay. Let's look at the three companies, just for the hell of it, okay? And Jillian said, it doesn't really matter, but Jillian said that Walmart and Kmart, she had to juxtapose. So in this example, this would be Walmart, this would be Kmart, this would be Coke, okay? So Kmart's running their business, and they made $10 million $10 billion in gross profit. Cool. But they got so many stores, so many trucks, so many employees, their costs are through the roof, and it takes them $100 billion worth of assets to generate that. Okay?
But so I think I understand. But no, since they don't actually like everything that takes it on.
Those are assets.
Yeah.
Coke doesn't own that stuff.
Yeah, so they only consider.
Exactly. So Craig, a Budweiser distributor, is his EVA higher or lower than Budweiser? You think? Why? He owns the bottling plant. He owns the land. He owns the trucks. He owns the people. He pays for all that stuff. Those are assets. Exactly right. So the distributor in all these companies does not have the EVA that the parent company does. Now, if, you know, us at Coke and everybody faces when you work for a parent company, when you go talk to the bottler, what is the bottler telling you? Holy shit, you guys, wait a minute. You guys are making how much money? How much money are you making on what? So what's he gonna try to get us to do? Yeah, right, pay less. Or he wants to pay less for our product because we're making so much money. Remember, the Coca-Cola company or Budweiser doesn't, all these companies, parent companies are actually selling the product to the distributor. So when a distributor finds out that the parent company's making so much money, they're gonna bust the chops of the parent company and say, wait a minute, we're the ones spending all the money to sell your product. You need to help us out. You guys got that? It's cool. So that's EVA. So that's got to do with return on investment. All right. Market share. We talked about this, you guys. So company's product sales, the percentage of total sales of that industry. You guys give me an example. What example do we use? Remember, this goes way back. Very good, right? What did we say? Awesome, right? And back then, the discussion was about product positioning, right? And we talked about the different detergents. One was for babies, one was for cleanliness, one was for color. And they had Procter & Gamble, the company, and they had like 15 different detergents. Remember that? And then we talked about their sales as a percentage of the detergent market. So this is just that same thing. So a company's product sales is a percentage of total sales for that industry. So how you define the industry is what's important. So, soft drinks, Coke has a 20, let's say Coke has a 25 market share. What that means is 1 out of every 4 beverages sold, soft drinks, is a Coke product. Okay? So obviously the goal, Publix in Atlanta is trying to grow their market share versus who? Kroger. So what does that mean?
More business. Is that where you're going on?
Yeah, well, here's the, oh wow, let me get into this. Let's talk about market share for a second. This is complicated. In Atlanta, this is, because we got grocery. Look, this is grocery. And grocery, this is Trader Joe's. I'm just making this up. 20%, Costco, 15%, Publix, 30%, Kroger, 35%, 70, 100, 20, and all these 10. You got that system market share. What that means in Kroger, what it means in Atlanta, is that in Atlanta, what is this, Costco? At Costco, every $100 spent in groceries in Atlanta, 15 is spent at Costco. Okay, you guys got that? You guys understand that, right? Okay. The people at Publix would gift their left arm to make this number go from 20 to 21. That's the whole job. And they're trying to grow their business. Here's the problem with groceries in Atlanta. What happens is when you're in actually Atlanta's probably more better than good. When you're in a growing market, Publix, if the market grows 10% and everybody's market share stays the same, if the Atlanta market grocery goes 10, everybody's market share goes the same, what market share does Costco have?
Same, right?
Exactly. So you can keep your market share. Do you guys understand what he said there? You understand why it would be the same?
I didn't really catch it.
Okay. So the question is, the Atlanta marketplace, I've got those shares up there for different grocery stores, right? And the whole market, Atlanta grocery market goes up 10%. The whole marketplace goes up, right? If Publix or Costco in this case, if the shares all stay the same, what percentage of sales growth does Costco have? 10%. The whole market grows up 10%, right? So in order for them to keep their 15 share, they got to go up 10%. Okay, so to grow your business, my point to him was, Publix could, any of these customers could stay at their market share and grow their business if the whole market goes up. The problem is, the whole market often doesn't go up, right? So if the whole market doesn't go up, and we're in Wichita, Kansas, right? We're in Wichita, Kansas, and the grocery market is even, because the population's even, or whatever the case is. Okay, these are now all these guys are in Wichita, Kansas. If Costco wants to grow from 15 to 17%, where do they have to get that from? They got to get it from the competitors. So when growing your business, there's two ways of growing your business. You got to grow your business in a marketplace that's growing, and you grow with the marketplace, which is cool. But if the marketplace isn't growing, in order to grow your business, you got to take it out of your competitors. And this becomes a war. That's where the war starts. Because for Publix to grow 2% in a market that's not growing is unbelievable, right? So these are big dollars. We're talking about grocery. You guys got that to grow business. You either got to grow, the market's got to grow, or you got to take it out of your competitors if the market's not growing. You guys got that? What's that?
How would that happen? Like,
Sure. So you've got to figure a way. It's about what this class is about. This class is about how do you differentiate yourself if you're Publix? How do you get, she used to shop at Kroger. How are they going to get her to shop at Publix? But the whole market's not growing. The market's staying even. The whole thing is marketing. All the stuff we're talking about in this class. Publix got to do something in order to get her to go to Publix. It ain't easy.
and an example of like.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm sorry, maybe I didn't explain that right. So if the population grows 10%, the grocery market grows 10%, for Publix to grow 10%, they can do it by just staying with the marketplace. But if the marketplace is even and they want to grow 10%, they got to take it out of the other dudes.
So let's say there's one intersection in Dallas where Publix across all facing each other.
Well,
So I guess everyone just takes their pick.
yeah.
It's not like they're like 5 miles apart. They're like right across, kind of like CVS and Walgreens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
CVS and Walgreens this is crazy for them.
Yeah.
Drugstore.
Yeah.
So the fewer groceries got a lot of people playing in it, a lot of companies, but in industries where you've got less participants or less manufacturers, it gets even more cutthroat. So, but you understand? You understand? Okay, so that's market share. Okay, hang in there, a couple more slides and we're done. Whatever, not all pricing, so I'm talking about later. Okay, very confusing, listen up. Almost guaranteed a test question because everybody confuses us. And this school, to me, does not teach this the right way. My buddy here, have you talked about elasticity in your classes? Okay, can you explain what elasticity is to the class? In layman's terms? It's tough.
No idea.
You don't got it? Okay, does anybody know what it is yet?
But kind of like the next Netflix thing we were talking about. If they raise their price from $12 to $13 a month, isn't it like what percentage of their user base will say that?
That's exactly right. My understanding is a lot of classes in here there's two types of elasticity, demand elasticity, price elasticity. And I don't know in your economic class, but I understand they teach a lot here. I can, from some reason, demand elasticity. I don't know why the hell they do that because business doesn't work that way. Business works about price elasticity. And you hit it right on the head. So there's two terms called elastic and inelastic. And let's go with your Netflix. Okay. So elastic and inelastic. Inelastic. And I'm going to, well, let's just stick with Netflix. So Andrew, what did you say Netflix is raising their prices?
12 to 13.
Okay. So what is Netflix's, just give me a guess, what do you think their sales are? I don't know, whatever,
Uh,
$1 billion.
sure.
Netflix sells $1 billion. And Andrew, they're raising their price, and this is 2021, let's say. And you're gonna say Netflix is raising the price, right?
Yep.
Okay. Andrew, in 2022, what's gonna happen to their sales?
They're gonna go up.
Why?
Because with COVID, people are.
Okay, forget all that.
Okay.
Normally, if you raise your price, what happens to your sales?
They go up.
Do they? Depends. And that's the difference between elastic and inelastic. So elastic and inelastic with Netflix, let's use Netflix. If Netflix keeps jacking the price up, okay, and people keep buying Netflix, that's elastic pricing, which means as the price goes up, people still pay for it. Inelastic means if Netflix went up 2%, everybody would drop Netflix, which isn't the case, right? So inelastic means when you raise the price, the sales go down. Elastic means you raise the price and sales relatively stay the same. For some reason, the school, my understanding, and I talk about this every semester, for some reason, I guess they don't teach it this way, but this is how business is. When you're setting pricing up, you want to know, depending on the product you're selling, you want to know what you can get, right? So what's an elastic? Netflix might be one. What's an example of a product that's got elastic pricing? Interesting. Everybody brings that up, every class. Explain that to me. Talk about gas. Thank you for bringing it up. That's the example I always use. So let's talk about gas. So what's gas now? 250?
Yeah.
All right, 269, let's say. Price goes to 299. What did you just say? Fantastic. Price goes to 349. What happens? Awesome. What happens to 399? $4 is when gas is thought to become inelastic. Once price of gas goes to $4, electric vehicles sell more, people start walking more, they use the bus, they share ride, whatever the case is. But with gas, the thought is up to about $4, you're cool. So products go from elastic to inelastic, right? At some point, a Rolex is elastic up at 5,000, 7,000, 10,000. Once a Rolex gets to 20 grand, people aren't going to buy a Rolex. But at the regular pricing, it's an elastic product. So every product, and gas is a great example. What you want? Let me ask you a question. If you're selling a product, would you rather be have an elastic product or inelastic product? Why is that? Explain to class. That's exactly right. You guys got that? So what I tell you, remember we talked about water products? What we talked about? The water purification systems? Until when? Exactly, until somebody says no. So my products would be considered elastic because they've got a long way to go before somebody says no. So if I raise my products $100 and nobody would buy it, then my product would be what? Inelastic. You guys are good. You're better than most classes. You guys, everybody got that? And it's important because if you're a business, like he said, you want to try to be in a business with elastic products. All right? Okay. Maybe one last slide.
So inelastic is gas, right?
No, what I said. Yeah, so what happens is elastic, so all products have this. Even elastic products at some point become inelastic, depending on the price. So in this example here with gas, it's inelastic, it's elastic. Uh-oh, $4, people stop buying it. Then it becomes inelastic because people stop buying it. So at some point, people are going to stop buying products, and then that product becomes inelastic. But up until $4, like he said, people aren't going to stop. They're not going to buy less gas because gas goes from $2.69 to $2.99. So that's an elastic product.
I think I had one, it was a rubber band, to stretch back and forth. At some point, it breaks.
Yeah, that's a good example.
Because in elastic demand is when people buy about the same amount of product or service when the price drops or rises.
What are you looking at? What did I just tell you?
Same thing, right?
No. In my class, what counts? First of all, thank you for looking at the website. Good for you. But good for you, seriously, good for you. But a lot of people get this confused and they say shit like that because that's the academic. I'm telling you, it's not how business works. Business has got to be about price. And when you look in there, there's demand elasticity, and it gets confusing. So, what website are you looking at? Oh, they have no idea.
Let's see, I was,
I'm teasing you. A lot of econ people teach it the opposite way.
yeah, I was about to say the teacher's office.
They teach, so again, marketing, business, the hell with econ. Okay? The way this works in business is people want to know how much they can price their product before somebody says no. The farther you can go, the higher you can raise your price, when people say no, that's an elastic product. Elastic. Once they say no, that product turns inelastic. So in the gas example, which is a great example, at $2.69, no problem. Everybody's buying 3, 4. Once it hits $4, the common thought is, once it hits $4, people change their habits. They drive less, they go ride share, they walk, they take the bus, whatever. So at that point, price becomes a big problem, and then the product is inelastic. You understand it? You sure? I want to make sure you understand it. You did it 2 seconds ago. Do you understand it? Yeah.
Elastic is, depends on the gas.
Yeah, elastic, just look at it. Elastic pricing means you can raise your price and still sell the same. Inelastic means when you raise the price, your sales go down. That's a simple way of saying it, isn't it? You got that right? Yeah. You guys cool on that? Okay, any questions?